The following recording was created by the Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast at Florida State University. Information and materials for this recording are supported by the Institute of Education Sciences, National Center for Education Evaluation and Regional Assistance, Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast at Florida State University. Contract ED-IES-17-C-0011 as resources and examples for the listener's convenience. Their inclusion is not intended as an endorsement by the Regional Educational Laboratory Southeast or its funding source, the Institute of Education Sciences. In addition, the activities and instructional model discussed in this recording are not intended to mandate, direct, or control a state's local educational agencies or schools' specific instructional content, academic achievement system and assessments, curriculum or program of instruction. State and local programs may use any instructional content, achievement system and assessments, curriculum or program of instruction they wish.
Hello, my name is Catherine Hart, and I will be leading a discussion between three individuals from Tri-County Early College High School, or TCEC, Alyssa Cheek, the principal, Chris Creighton, a math and science teacher, and Leah Nix, a student. In the Early College High School model, students attend not only high school classes, but also college-level classes at a partner college. The conversation will focus on lessons learned during the COVID pandemic school shutdowns and how CBE culture and expectations helped TCEC maintain student learning and progress during remote and hybrid instruction. Alyssa, please introduce yourself and provide a brief introduction of Tri-County Early College, including its vision and culture.
Alyssa Cheek, and I have been in education for 31 years. I'm feeling old. So 31 years. I was actually part of the team that wrote the grant for Tri-County Early College in 2006. So in 2008, I came in as a math and science teacher in 2006, and then in 2008, I took over as principal. So I've been here since since the beginning, and in some capacity or another. So the big thing is that this was like my dream come true. This school was what I always envisioned the education could look like. So I am privileged to get to be a part of this kind of education.
Thanks, Alyssa. Now let's turn to Chris Creighton. Chris?
I did not start off in education, so listen, I'm about the same age, but I took different path. I started off as an undergraduate pre-med, and then went for a summer at a biological field station and found out that you could be outside and study ecology, and that was a real thing. So I didn't go to medical school, and I went to graduate school in botany. And in the course of all that, decided, no, maybe I don't really want to have a PhD, but I taught in graduate school. So I enjoyed teaching. I thought I'll go back to school and be a biology teacher, but then I started getting jobs teaching math. So I became a math teacher. I've taught at different levels. I taught at the community college here. I've taught high school math in Georgia, and then I taught middle school math and science. And I've taught math primarily here, but I'm teaching biology this fall.
Thanks, Chris. So what should people know about TCEC?
I think they should know that we're a competency-based, project-based school with a focus on learning and skills.
The only thing I would change, and just because we've had multiple conversations about this, is that we use project-based learning to get to competency in our skills. So our students are learning all the content they need, but they're also learning these 21st century skills through doing projects.
When all North Carolina schools transitioned to 100% remote learning in the spring of 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, how well did your school keep your students engaged? And what factors do you think contributed to this?
two of the primary factors were, number one, we had very strong relationships with our students. And because of those strong relationships already, we used those, I guess, to keep the students connected. So they didn't want to stop learning. They didn't want to disappoint their teacher. They wanted to keep going. So first of all, I think that the relationships that we had taken the time to cultivate with them really contributed to helping them stay engaged, helping us to keep them engaged. The second thing was that we use technology a lot already. So when we went to 100% online, the students were used to being online, and it was just one more step to do it the way we had to do it. So we already had the foundations, I think, to be able to do the remote learning. Okay. The teaching staff, they just figured it out, and it was amazing. So they're not afraid to try something. They'll get in there, and if it doesn't work, they know that at least it's better than doing nothing at all or doing just traditional. So they jump in there and do it. If they make a mistake, they just tweak it or go back. They're not afraid to try something. That always impresses me.
As a school principal, what were some challenges you faced in preserving the TC-EC culture during virtual learning? And what strategies did you take to mitigate those challenges?
All right, so the relationship part, that was the culture, I think. And so the preservation of the culture it was just already there. It's so ingrained in what we do. So keeping, not just doing the curriculum, but also still maintaining those relationships and maintaining the skills within the curriculum, that's part of our culture. And the teachers continue to do that. So they just wrapped it right into whatever it was. The challenges, oh my goodness, the challenges of not seeing the kids face to face every day, that was very hard, because if you're struggling with the kids, you can pull them in and give them one-on-one instruction. That's very hard to do when you're remote only. So that individualization, I think, was the biggest challenge we had when we went to online. Each teacher made direct contact with each student, and we did that on a very regular basis. They were talking to them. They were emailing them. They were doing these video chats with them. They had classroom time set up, hangout time. So those were some of the strategies that they used to overcome that, and that was very difficult.
And from our previous conversations, Alyssa, I know your teachers were reaching out to kids on a weekly basis. Likewise, as a teacher, when you transitioned to remote learning, what were some challenges you faced, Chris, with instruction? And what strategies did you take to mitigate them?
I think that contact piece, even though we were talking to a lot of students, we didn't have that immediate real-time feedback with them. So we might be checking in with them every week. One of the things we ask our students to prove competency is just to explain stuff to us. But that's really challenging, teaching math to well, they can't show me anything, or it's very difficult, or their technology isn't working and we're just talking on the phone. It's just the logistics of all of that was very difficult.
What strategies did you use to keep your students engaged when it was hard for them to show those competencies?
I tried a couple of things that were really helpful. We did some online lessons where they're interacting. There's this platform called Desmos, and they do lessons together, and they see their own, they see each other's answers. So it might put a graph and ask a question about the graph, and then all the students will answer that. So they could see each other working in that platform. But then we also did a hangout, like a chat hangout, sort of as a back channel. So they were helping each other and talking. It made it much more of like a classroom space, a more typical classroom space that we may have, but it was a virtual way to do it. So that was one thing that helped us. But it's not something that we, had ever done before. So we just kind of figured it out. The other thing that I think really helped us and is connected to our culture is, you know, this idea of trying new things for teachers. Because we have those relationships with students, we're able to say, oh, well, sorry, we tried, you know, and we take their feedback, they help us, and they know that we're trying to help them, and they can kind of, you know, they are comfortable telling us their experience and telling us, hey, that didn't work at all, or that was awesome, let's do that again. So I think those relationships make a big difference.
So it sounds like the relationships you had actually supported student ownership of learning because they were able to tell you what was and wasn't working.
I think that's definitely true. Actually, one thing about engagement, I think just having frequent low stakes interactions with the students. So these online virtual meetings, I didn't make that like a gotcha time or, you know, calling people out about not doing their work. We were just still trying to support those relationships at that time.
Please describe how your school is operating during the fall 2020 semester. What new challenges does operating in a hybrid model pose, especially at an early college high school where students are taking both high school and college classes? And again, what strategies have you taken to mitigate those challenges?
All right, so we're currently on the 2-cohort model. So we divided our student body in half, and half of our students come on Monday, Tuesday, and half of our students come on Wednesday, Thursday. And the college joined us in that. So half of our student body go to both high school and college classes on those days. And when they're here, they come in and they stay with their core high school classes for the day. So basically all of our freshmen stay together, all of our sophomores stay together, juniors, seniors, they stay together, but they're moving until for half of the day. And then the other half of the day, they're going to college classes. So we are moving and changing classes, but at the same time, we're also keeping them as still within groups as much as we possibly can. We're out on Friday. We do not come on Friday. One thing we did do that our district did not do, I did not put remote only students in the classes with my teachers. So in my district, teachers are expected to teach both their face-to-face kids and their remote only kids. And that seems
at the same time
difficult across the county. The teachers are really, really having a hard time with that. I only had a few, we only had 13 out of our student body that chose remote learning, fully remote learning. And so we enrolled them in virtual public school classes for their core high school classes and then online college classes. And I want to make sure that I say there needs to be a lot of consideration for the teachers. If you overwhelm them, they're not going to be able to teach any of the students well. So my teachers are teaching their face-to-face, or I should say they're hybrid students only. They are not teaching remote only learners. Okay. And I think that was a good choice, especially now that I'm looking across the district and seeing the challenges that did face, that the other teachers across the county are facing with that part.
Just to clarify for listeners, when you say that your teachers are only teaching hybrid students, you mean that they're teaching the students who attend in person 2 days a week. Students who have chosen to be 100% remote are being taught by teachers outside of your school. So Chris, as a teacher, what new challenges does operating in a hybrid model pose for you? And what strategies have you taken to mitigate them?
I agree that the relationship thing is very hard. I haven't met a lot of the freshmen. Because of our hybrid and the cohort model, we're not able to do a school-wide PBL, which is what we've been doing because all the kids would be mixed up. So we don't have that cohesion as a school, I think, where everyone is on the same project. So I think that's a challenge. But we are doing, I think everyone is comfortable knowing we're doing the best that we can do. So I'm co-teaching a class that's with biology and English too, and it's just a PBL class. So in the woods and they're working on their projects and they're getting credit for both classes. That's going well. And I'm, spending time talking to students as much as I can and try to focus on the positive.
Alyssa, as a school principal, what lessons have you learned about keeping your students fully engaged while they are remote, including both the 100% virtual and hybrid model?
Okay, so if you go back to what I said in the beginning, that one of the reasons we were able to keep students as engaged as we were in the spring was because we already had these strong relationships with them. That is the number one thing to me is you've got to build those relationships. And in this environment, it is very, very difficult to do. So the lesson that I have learned is to find a way to build relationships with the students that you're teaching so that they will want to stay engaged for you, but also find reasons for them to stay engaged. How do you make that learning still relevant, even though it's online? How do you still make them want to go outside, even if you're not there to make them go outside and look at the trees and the nature surrounding them? That's the project that Chris and her partner are doing right now. So it's amazing. It's truly amazing. So how do you make them want to, do those things, even though you're not there to tell them? So that learning, even remote learning, the lessons are the same as they are when you're face to face. They have to be relevant. They have to be rigorous. But not too much, or there's a fine line you have to walk there. So I think that's it. You've got to be able to figure out a way to build those relationships, and you still have to keep it relevant and engaging, so they'll want to do the work.
What lessons learned would you both share with others facing similar challenges in personalizing learning for students as they adapt to changing educational environments?
Even if I don't get things that they turn in graded, I try to acknowledge the kids who haven't turned anything in, just so they're seen, and really I think they appreciate that. I get some feedback from them right away. They feel seen. It's not that they didn't turn it in on purpose just to get a message from me, but to know that I'm keeping up with them, I think on some level helps them to know that they're a valuable part of the class. The relevance issue, it's relevant to them when they have voice and choice. So in this project, it's very broad, our expectations, other than content, and I'm helping them through that, but they get to choose what they want to study. We're really lucky that we have some acreage and a creek, and they can go over and mess around, and we found this app that you can just point your phone at stuff and it tells you what it is and gives you more information. So we hooked them right away with that. And they're just having fun. We try to give them time when they're essentially just outside playing. They're big kids. They go home with wet feet every time they're at school. I think 50% of the class goes home with wet feet. The individualizing, for content, I always have sort of layered scaffolding so they can choose different practice. They get choice in what practice they do to learn the content. And then they also have choice in how they prove mastery on that content. So, even though there are things that they have to learn, they have choice in how they do that. So I think that helps with engagement also.
Catherine, let me tell you, one of my favorite things I've seen this semester is Chris's class was coming back from doing all this observation, and they'd been out there. I mean, it was like the end of the day. They were getting ready to go home, and they come back, and one of them happened to notice this spider that was on this trebuchet that we have sitting out in our yard. And when they went, spider, or whatever it was they said, I'm looking out the window just kind of watching what's going on, and 6 or 8 of them go running over and with their phones out wanting to know what this thing was. I mean, they were really engaged, and this was after 2 hours of being out, I guess, Chris, already doing that. They want to know. They're in it. So I love that. Here they come, all of them with those phones.
It's super fun.
Great.
It sounds like a great app.
Of that engagement that I get to see, and just wonderful. These teachers have come up with these really good COVID lessons where they're still active and they're still together, but they're spaced and doing it's just wonderful. It's wonderful.
How did adapting to new school schedules and learning environments impact your relationships with others at the school, including staff and students?
Not having the students at school every day, especially the new students, has made it harder to get to know them. Even though we're doing the best we can, and I still see those relationships forming, the students are not getting to spend time with each other as a whole school. We're not getting to interact like we normally do and have these wonderful activities. Our advisory's not meeting together. And there's no way to change that right now. We tried to think through it, and I do truly feel like we're doing the best we can in developing relationships. We're still contacting parents and keeping in touch, and we're still doing those individual phone calls when we need to, and doing those things. But at the same time, we're missing some things, and I don't think you can overcome that in the environment that we're in.
What are some other key takeaways you can share?
My takeaway is to really value student input and adjust what you're doing based on what's working for them. We can't assume that we know how it's going to work for them, and we just really need to work as a team and adjust so that it's working for the students.
We've worked real hard to give grace to the students, and we really need them to do that for us too.
And finally, what one sentence would you provide as inspiration to others facing educational challenges during the pandemic?
To me, it's all about the student. Is the decision that I am making, that we are making, what is best for our students? And if you can say yes, then that's the inspiration. Just always ask what's best for the students. And even though it may be hard for us, if that's what's best, then that's what we need to do.
Mine is connected to this idea of student input, but just that we're in this together. We're figuring out how to do it. We don't know, nobody knows. We've never done this before. So we're just got to work on it together.
Now we'll welcome a student to the conversation. Leah, please provide a brief introduction of yourself and your time at Tri-County Early College.
I'm Leah Nix. I'm a junior at the early college, and I've been there for all 3 years. And but I've really been connected to the school. My sister came before, and so we knew all about it with her. And as soon as I was in 8th grade, I knew exactly what high school I wanted to go to.
Since the pandemic began, in what ways have you been able to claim ownership of your learning and academic success?
I feel like I have to be able to plan things a lot better and further out, just because things can change so quickly. So for me to feel more comfortable with my work level, I have to get a lot of organization done, and I have to plan a lot of things and look further out. So I just feel more comfortable and more in charge of myself with learning. When I feel like there's a lack of communication with my teachers or with Miss Cheek, I always make sure to reach out. I have both of their numbers because Miss Chris is my advisor, and of course Miss Cheek is my principal. So I have both of their phone numbers, I have their emails, and it's just if I have questions, I know I need to get them answered or I'm not going to be able to be efficient. And I think a lot of my fellow students feel that way too, and they have a lot of good communication with their advisor, especially if you have one like Miss Chris, who's great. And I do have a job. I'm in my job right now. So just staying organized and working with my teachers and letting them know what's going on so I can have a balanced life, even though there is a crazy pandemic going on.
What do you think your teachers and school are doing right now that helps you feel engaged?
Especially last year, because we weren't at school at all, we had a lot of Google Meets and Zooms and emails, and just them being honest and upfront with us, this is a new program, this is a new thing, we're learning, you're learning, we got to stick through this together. And Miss Chris and my other teachers, Miss Creighton and my other teachers have just been really great to listening to our advice, because my screen doesn't look like theirs, and my experience isn't their experience, and they know that, and I know that my teachers' experience are different too. So I think just like learning from each other and communicating and saying, this works for me, I don't know what works for you, but like let's find that middle ground. And also just email communication has been amazing and great, and I'm sure they're probably tired of seeing my name pop up on their screens. So,
and what one sentence would you provide as inspiration to others facing educational challenges during the pandemic?
So it might be a little cheesy, but I thought it was a good one. So I put that we will get through this, but not alone. We have to stick together.
Is there anything we didn't ask that you would like to share with us?
We just want the students to know that we don't want them to get shortchanged during this time. And so we're trying very hard to make sure that they're going to get the same education as they get when they're with us full time. And we know it's not the same and probably not as good, but we're trying very hard to make sure they're not getting shortchanged during this time.
Thanks to Alyssa, Chris, and Leah for sharing with us today. And thank you for listening.